All right, we are a few minutes late. Apologies. Wasn't planned really, just but I said I'd be here in 10 till, and I'm not. Hopefully, I'm playing around with arranging cameras and microphones. Hopefully, I can be heard. Nobody's no eyeballs on me yet, so we'll keep playing. So I got this new little rig. Hey, Tayo, hop on, keep me company. So I got this new rig, tells me to move my camera around. But unfortunately, wrong one. Clip it. There we go. How are we doing there? All right. I am heard. Thank you, Tayo. Anyway, it's all pain. I'm gonna move a lot of stuff around anyway. Hello, pep in my step. Thank you. Okay, we'll stop messing around. Maybe. I'm on just for a little bit, maybe just try to keep it an hour. I should put in my link, huh? I can't invite people to hop on if I don't have a link. That's dumb. Jeez Louise. Friggin' amateur hour. Hey, ups. Everybody knows each other. That's nice. All right. Passage. I posted a passage in the title. Almost sounds like I was prepared. And this is a passage I've referred to it multiple times, but it's come up in this whole Catholic Protestant thing that I'm going through in my personal life. And it just goes like this. I'll just read it from the New International. They all read more or less the same. There's no controversies on translation here that I know of. And it goes like this. Matthew 3, verse 9. And do not think you can say to yourselves, we have Abraham as our father. I tell you that out of these stones God can raise up children for Abraham. If you want something more classical, we go King James. And think not to say within yourselves, we have Abraham to our father. For I say unto you that God is able out of these stones to raise up children unto Abraham. I wish I had a more dramatic training. I could read that properly. The King James just demands better reading that I'm incapable of. And let's see, scroll down. Here's the Catholic Public Domain version, their translation. And do not choose to say within yourselves, we have Abraham as our father, for I tell you that God has the power to raise up sons to Abraham from these stones. And so on. They all pretty much read the same. So why it's a flyover verse, right? I mean, that's how it's typically read in scripture. It says God's impressive and powerful, and the Jews were bad. And that was kind of the way it spun in church when I grew up. You know, the Pharisees were rejecting Jesus, and this camera angle gives me a big head, doesn't it? Oh well. But it was a Passover verse. This is John the Baptist speaking, by the way, in case you're wondering. And he's preaching to the crowds who'd come out into the wilderness to see him, and of course he's baptizing. And this is part of his sermon. Don't take pride in your stance, your position, even your position that God has given you, right? Because he can take it away. God is sovereign. PVK would like that a lot. All the Calvinists like that stuff. God is sovereign. He can make you, he can break you. All this is true. Um, and but in my personal life, what's come to mind through all this is I'm you know I'm looking at the church, and you can flip it both ways. By the way, we'll play both sides of this. But I'm studying it basically all my spare time. I'm not busy doing more important things or less important things. I don't know which. Um, is spent dwelling on these matters. It's church doctrine, or it's church history, or it's whatever. And on the one hand, I can legitimately buy the Catholic position that they represent the one true church. And basically, out of all of the Protestant churches, certainly, it was from the Catholics they were born. Were there no Catholics? Was there not a Catholic church, there would not be a Protestant church, right? And even the oldest Orthodox churches, they were in fellowship and recognized, going all the way back to the church fathers, the special status Rome had. And that I believe it's you go back as far as Irenaeus or Tertullian around 200 AD. I've read that there was a recognition that that was Peter's seat, and that Peter was the first Pope of Rome, and that's the succession. So, anyways, that's church lore, and I'm sure I'm not representing it as well as I could, but that's the position, and I can buy that. But I have this passage rummaging around in my head, and I go, well, John the Baptist might say, so what? So what, Catholics? Don't say to yourself that you were, in this case, the one true church. God can, out of these stones, make up the church to replace you. And that's basically the Protestant position. And it's maybe that's what did indeed happen. But flip it around, of course, in the Protestants, don't take pride in your Protestantism. Don't take pride in your doctrine, because God can, or your position, for whatever it is, God can replace you too. And God can resurrect the dead. So even if, say, you buy into, and as I have in the past, as my Church of Christ friends believed back in the day, I don't think that's so much of a popular idea anymore, but it was the old party line 50 years ago that Catholic Church, the Church of Christ, died sometime not long after the passage of the apostolic generation, and went into a kind of hibernation or recession, and it needed restoring. This is the restorationist argument, and so they argue that in the 19th century and in America of all places, this is probably the least plausible of all the arguments, but it was the one I was baptized into. God restored his one true church. So it was dormant for 1600, 1900 years. And just long enough, the church was alive and vibrant and true long enough to give us the scriptures, they say, to put pen to paper or papyrus. and then have it transcribed and so on and so forth. And so we got our Bible. They're not never, the restorationists are never very clear about how we get our Bible. I mean, they're real scholars within restorationist tradition, so it's not fair to them. They know, but the general public, the popular position is very vague about the Bible. The Bible's sacred, but on the other hand, nobody talks about the fact that the Catholic Church played a absolutely essential, crucial role in its formation. Mark S, hop in, represent. Um, so I can see everybody's position. There's some truth in Martin Luther was going hard back in the day to deal with church corruption and um, the whore of Babylon had taken over, and he was cleaning house. Uh, and on the other hand, I can take the contemporary Catholic view and take it seriously, and say, yes, this is the fullest of the best and fullest representation of the church on earth today. I can buy any of that. But then I read a passage like this from John the Baptist and I shudder because I look and say, out of these stones, he can raise up our replacements very easily, whoever we are, whatever church tradition, Orthodox, Catholic, Protestant, Evangelical, Pentecostal. And this seems to be, pride seems to be, it was Second Temple Judaism seemed to have had a pride problem. I mean, read some of the material out of the Dead Sea Scrolls. There's a lot of monomania and pride going on there. Read, right from the start. Paul confronts Peter. He describes a scene in Galatians where he confronts Peter to his face, he says, and calls the leadership of the church, the apostolic leadership, James and Peter and the crowd, the guys, and calls them so-called pillars. And I wonder if he has some of John the Baptist's sermons were circulating at that time, and he might have little snippets. I'm sure people were, while they were awed by Jesus, John survives in the text, and so he must have survived in the lore, the just the. I'm guessing people talked a lot about John the Baptist. The people who, can you imagine? I saw Led Zeppelin in 1975 or something. People talk about that today, and you'll see people just wax rhapsodic about their experiences of seeing some great rock and roll band back in the day, and at their best, at their height, and I'm guessing people probably did the same thing with John the Baptist. Because of all the preachers out there of Jesus's time, other than Jesus himself, John the Baptist was probably the closest thing to a proper rock star. I mean, come on. Locusts, a strange diet, locusts and wild, weird habits, charismatic preaching. I saw Keith Green when he was in his prime before he tragically died, and that's still, I was like 15, 16 maybe. Saw him in a park, and we were within oh, geez, 20 feet of the stage. He's at his piano, maybe 30 feet. My eyesight was better then, or was it? I don't remember. No, I wore really thick glasses already, so it wasn't better. So he was up. We were up close. It was amazing. He's a very charismatic guy. So yeah, I'm guessing John the Baptist was legendary. Just the man I was hoping to talk to today.
So I put a comment in about the history that you mentioned. It's
Yes.
a guy called E.H. Broadbent wrote a book called The Pilgrim Church, which is a description of the continuing but underground nature of the church between Constantine and basically whenever you fancy. I.e., when your church was founded. That's right. When your apostle.
That's right. When your church was founded. Until you read the history about that church. That's the hard part, is when you really drill down into the details and you kind of get that sickening feeling in your stomach, It's just
That
sense of
Mrs. Apostle
nausea.
wasn't as well looked after or as a little more controlling than you might have thought.
Exactly. Yeah. It's unnerving, but it's everywhere. You can't the more you study church history, it's
You've
there's
got to
no
admit
purity.
that there must be an awful lot of little old Italian black widowed ladies turning up in heaven because they didn't really understand Catholic doctrine and all they did was love Jesus and love Mary and sweep the church floor once a week, you know.
Right. Well, that's true, and I've been of that opinion for a long time. That have deep respect for the little old church ladies that just show up, don't naively, overlook all the weirdnesses that more cynical personalities like myself pick up on very quickly. But they just go to church and see the best in people and the best in their leaders and like you
And
say, they
actually
love
probably see the
Jesus.
worst in them too and just ignore it because they know that actually that's not their faith. Their faith is not resting in
Maybe.
the priest. Their faith is not resting in the Pope. They're not resting in anybody but actually the statue of Mary and the statues of Jesus.
Yeah.
I, yeah,
And yet the purity seems to matter because God keeps tearing it down.
yeah.
He doesn't let this stuff last. I mean, if
You,
there's
you,
always a replacement.
yes, I think. But the other side of it is that the problem with the replacement thing is that unless it's renewing within the Catholic Church, which I am not a member of, I have to say, or the Orthodox, which I'm not a member of, which I have to say, I belong to a splinter group from a splinter group from a splinter group, um, which is interesting. The other thing is that the so, but the renewal has to come from within, or it has to come from without.
Right.
And if the main body of the church, rejects the renewing body, then you've got problems. Like Martin Luther was a problem, the Hussites were a problem, probably the Albigensians were a problem, and may not have
Mm-hmm.
even been, according to the rest is history, which is, of course, the absolute truth. Um,
Right now they are. They're hot.
um,
Don't
you know,
let's
they were just
we're all
old
going to be
fashioned. They were just
scandalized.
old fashioned traditional Catholics who didn't like the new stuff because it was
Yeah.
renewing itself under Pope Gregory.
Right. Right.
Um, and what's also true is that the Counter Reformation and Vatican II have radically changed the nature of the Catholic Church from what it was in 1498 before Luther posted his theses. You
Mm.
know, it's not the medieval Catholic Church full of um, forgivenesses and pay your way here and pay your way there bits.
Well, and that's the thing is um do we ref, do we the Protestant solution seems to be has been historically to not renew from within, but to renew through breaking. That's
Because
why it's you talk.
because the Orthodox say once you're a schismatic, i.e., not Orthodox, then schismatism is burnt into the DNA of your church.
Mm.
So you will always keep splitting and splitting and splitting. There is that classic case in the US of the church that split so much that people actually renamed themselves what they were to begin with after 5 splits.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I can imagine. I don't know what name that. Which one you're specifically you're thinking of?
it was the United Reformed something something something.
Okay.
It was like they went through. The first thing was they split on they have a southern and a northern bit, I think, and then they.
Yeah.
Anyway, I could probably look at it.
But the Catholic Church does keep the people who stay with it have to have the patience of Job.
Well, what they do is they form a new society.
That's true.
So it's interesting. The Economist this week is commenting on Christianity in Africa, and they were saying about a church in Zimbabwe that one of the guys had been to, which is completely Zimbabwean. I mean, there was nothing Western hardly at all about it, except the core bits of the mass were still there. But all the music, all the shouting and screaming, all the falling down, all the waving of hands, everything else was very, very Zimbabwean. And then next door in Kenya, there's a church that still does Latin and is doing very well for itself because they're weird, and weird does well. But that's the Society of Pius the 9th or 11th or something. One of the sort of newer, like Dominicans, Franciscans, you get Pius the 11th group. So I think that's what the Catholics do, is they create new little mini segments within themselves. So it's like they create an amniotic cell around the new baby, so to speak, and then the baby can be ingested back into the whole later properly.
Interesting. It's a good point, and it's yeah, I can see that. And if it doesn't, there are times when they don't always. I mean,
The Franciscans were very much
right on
on
the
the
edge,
edge.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. How's it going for you being Catholic? Because you
Well,
and I had a
it's
conversation
pseudo
about
still. If you
weeks ago.
noticed, yeah,
I know. I realized
it's properly pseudo. Because I don't know. I have good days and bad days. I
that's
think
fine.
I think what I might do is just read through portions of the Catechism and publicly do this publicly on the channel and just argue, tell you exactly what's going on in my mind as I read a specific passage.
Oh, that'd be
And
great. I had to memorize the catechism when I was a child.
really, how would you memorize the Catholic Catechism? It's huge.
Started off, what did your godparents promise when you were baptized? Is the first phrase in the Anglican Catechism for children.
Okay. Wow.
And then you say they promised to. It's all gone. It's 60 years ago. I was doing that.
Right. Are you growing a beard, by the way?
No, I've been ill for 2 weeks.
I'm sorry. Well, it
Yeah,
looks good. You look good, but I'm sorry you don't feel
it's
good.
coming off. It's coming off on Saturday. I'll go back to work on Monday. Yeah, I just on Monday 10 days ago, just suddenly went down and I had a chest infection. Tried fixing it with Panadols and the usual sort of stuff, and then went on antibiotics on Monday.
Wow.
So I should be cleared up by tomorrow, day after, and then back to work.
Okay.
The grind calls.
The grind calls. Well, thank you for joining us. Regardless, I hope are you feeling better though.
I am feeling better. Although I wouldn't have come on. And you and I were having a conversation 7 or 8 weeks ago about whether you should try being Catholic, and then about 2 weeks after that, we had a conversation about what it was like your first few times. I think you've been 5 times at that point to mass.
Right.
I was interested to ask you, and I'm going to interrogate you, I'm afraid, on this, if you don't
That's
mind.
fine. Go for it. Yeah.
You've jumped from being quite serious hot prod in some ways. You've gone to a period where you've been really unhappy with that. Now you're in the trying Catholicism out. You've gone beyond the 6 weeks that we suggested way back when as a group. So you must like it in some way. What are you finding really good about it, and what grates? That would be two good questions to start with.
The first question is what do I like about it, and what's the second
Yeah.
question?
What grates? What do you sort of,
Okay. What do I
you
like?
know?
What I don't like?
Yeah.
Um, I like. I mean, try to describe this succinctly. I get a sense of stability in it. That is, it just there's it's vague. It's so vague because I don't because the vague stuff. I mean, I respect. I have no reason not to respect the leaders, the priests in charge, the deacon. I mean, everybody there seems sincere and earnest, and it could be some real scoundrels hiding it. No, no doubt. But from what I get, the community is vibrant. It's it well represents the whole. Now I'm just talking about my local Catholic church. It's vibrant. It represents the whole community from babies to old people and everything in between. Um, I think once I get used to it and it becomes second nature to me, I can probably start to appreciate the mass more. But it's still weird to me. So I am just trying to keep up and not offend anybody in the process. You know.
There's a lot of rote learning needs to be done to get so that you've actually imbibed it first of all. Then you know all the actions at the right points. And because I lived in a place where the orthodoxy was the norm for Christianity for a while, and then having been in high Anglican churches, which are almost Catholic but not quite, I can never get it right. I never which way to go.
Well, the only reason
and I
I
think
don't
that you must be struggling with those sort of
that's
basic
it. It's
things.
those little things like that. I mean, I know the process, but it's still a foreign it's like a foreign language that I'm afraid to speak out loud. So even like, you know, I know some Spanish, I know some German, but you're gonna have to wrangle it out of me. I mean, I'd have to be hungry or my hair on fire or something to speak those languages in public because it feels embarrassing. It's like it feels like that. It's like speaking a foreign language in public to engage in the emotions, and it's I know at some point I got to take the leap into the pool. But it's extremely. I don't like being self conscious in church in that way. It
How many
doesn't.
people are in the church?
It's weird, huh?
How many
How
are in the
many?
church?
Oh, at any given each of the services probably have to have at least 250 minimum at any given service, and it was so packed. I'm thinking that the church I'm at now holds 500 in the pews because they have two locations. So the location that I'm attending is the smaller of the two, and it's an older church. Um, and they were so packed on Easter, I chose to step outside because I didn't want to catch any bugs, COVID or whatnot. Because I was having, it was shoulder to shoulder. We were packed in like sardines, and they kept bringing out chairs for the overflow on the outside, which was it was a lovely day, thankfully. And So it was standing room only, and I'm guessing that service was over 500 people.
Wow.
And then they
It's one
have
of the major
four.
festivals. Yeah.
Yeah, Easter. Yeah, Easter's a big deal. They have four. Yeah, four English services on Sunday, and then I think another two or three on in Spanish every Sunday. So whatever it is, it's the parish is right now. Well, they're building a sanctuary for 1,500, so that'll give you an idea of what to expect in terms of attendance. But even in that situation where it's a crowd, and the fact is, it is funny. It's there's a lot of people doing their own thing when you're walking in because it's a very different vibe from the Protestant church I was attending, where it's all yucks and we're all talking, and so it's socializing time as you enter into the church. And at my old church, people would talk and chatter, and finally, we're 20 minutes late. Let's finally get going on the service. We might still start worshiping God before we leave. And this, it's like, no, everything's meant to be I want you to be quiet. You need to be reverential. And then somebody will step forward at the pulpit at some point, 5 minutes before things start, and you'll be ordered to get to be quiet and sort yourself out with God because we're going to be starting Mass in a few minutes. I'd say it's always put very politely, but that's the gist of it, So it's all very reverential. Now, the flip side of what I don't like about it is that it's hard to break into that social part. There isn't, people come and go, and there's no talking. I mean, you don't talk going in, and there's not a lot of socializing going out, except for the guys who maybe, have been there, who are inside and been inside for a long time. So finding your way in socially they'll let you come and go without any acknowledgement.
They're not interested in you as a person in one sense. They are, but
right.
Do you know? Yeah.
You just don't know. Yeah, it's not expressed. Yeah. So that's something, I guess, that doesn't so much great because I like the anonymity sometimes, but knowing that I need to kind of no one's ever come up to me and say, you don't look it. I know you. I can. Well, actually, I had one lady say, here's on this page. Look at this, and I went, thank you. That was nice. But for the most part, nobody steps up and says, you obviously aren't a Catholic. Are you interested? I'd love to hear the sales pitch, but nobody ever gives it to you. And I told Neil Daedalus, I told him that Catholics are great at branding and terrible at marketing or sales. On the other hand, how do you sell something that really takes, as an adult, it's not designed for adult converts. I mean, it's meant to be grown up into. That's what it's ordered around. So that might be a factor in that as well. What do you think? Hey, Henry, long time no see.
Hi, Mark. Good to see you. It's been a minute.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Likewise. Just coming to listen in on your Catholic exploration and stuff. It's been a minute.
Yeah. Feel free to offer your thoughts and or criticisms. I get plenty of both. Guy's been around right from the start for this thing now. But what are we like 2.5 months into this project? And it's only got another 10 years to go. I'm literally saying my deadline is I figure I'm either just something like my 70th birthday, I figure. I'm 62 now. So
what it is to be young.
Yeah. It's a lot to work. It's a lot to take in, and that's the thing. It's just the history alone. And I'm reading a lot of history. I'm starting with a big overview history. Carlos Ayres' Reformations.
Right.
and great historian. It's a great survey of the history of the Protestant Reformation, but it's not just the Protestant Reformation. It's everything that basically it's from 1350 on is the history of it's the history of Christianity 1350 on in the West, and so it's really good because it talks about the impact and how the Catholic Church immediately began to reform itself within. It had already been trying to before Luther comes along, but after Luther, things kick into high gear. And like you said, other societies form, and it's a really interesting, it's a great history, but it's also one that's just soaked in blood and misery, you know. And nobody comes off looking good. That's the best part of this book, is nobody comes off looking good. We're all
the interesting thing for me with post-Reformation Catholicism is their missionary outreach, which is really, really interesting, because obviously we Protestants, you know, missionary works didn't start till Carey. We just didn't do anything. We were completely useless until Carey turned up somewhere in the 18 somethings, 17 somethings.
Oh, you don't consider like the Methodists and Asbury's circuit riders as being? I guess that was kind of towards Christians, though. They were trying to get white people into the church again, I guess.
And Wesley does reach out to the Indians, but that's pre-conversion, interestingly enough.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the Moravians are reaching out to the Indians in North America. But no one's, but the you know, the Jesuits and the Franciscans go off to North Africa and try and convert North Africa for Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or reconvert, as they probably thought of it, North Africa. And then they go off all the way to India and China and Japan. Not very successfully in Japan in some ways, but, you know, they had their bad moments and good moments.
Yeah, a little more successfully in Japan than in China initially. But because of politics, the problem that and this is something Ayers brings up, is that the Catholic Church's attachment to states inhibited. It was both it's a foreign policy decision as well as a cultural, religious decision to accept or expel Catholic missionaries, because you were inviting the Spanish or the Portuguese or into your country, which didn't always play well for the locals, and they weren't stupid. These ancient emperors, they weren't dumb. They had a long history in its ancient civilization, so they knew how to protect their states, and and they'd looked at what the Spanish did in the Philippines, and I think it was a learning lesson for them. On the other hand, then the Jesuits come in and into Latin America, and very often they were the ones. While they may have had a patronizing view of the natives, they were also great defenders of them and got in Dutch with colonists, the Spanish or Portuguese colonists, very often, because for the same reason that American pioneers were always. They didn't want any ethical constraints on their ambitions, and but Catholicism provided an opposing voice that you don't see quite so much within the Protestants until later. You do start to see it with abolitionism and so on. I don't know if any of that makes sense.
No, I think it does.
It's an interesting history. I think there's a lot for them to be proud of, but a lot and the thing is I think it all depends on which Catholic you're talking to. I think the leadership at the very highest levels at the Vatican. I mean, when I look at the popes, like I see this pope right now, they got, there's a story, I don't know if you guys have heard, but the Pope's ambassador to the United States was called in to the Pentagon. There's a story about it that was first reported in a conservative newspaper, or outlet. But it's been picked up, and they got a dressing down, and basically were threatened with, the Vatican and the Pope need to get in line with this administration. And they were reminded of what's called the Babylonian captivity, where the 14th century the French capture of the papacy in Avignon. So they housed the Pope in Avignon for the better part of a century. And somebody over there apparently is privy to that history and threatened much the same. I could play there's one guy who did a really good commentary on that story, and it's
American Pope. Oh, we got an American Pope.
Yeah, he's the first American Pope, which is ironic. Everybody's pointing that out too. But he says God doesn't hear the prayers. This was his Palm Sunday sermon.
Yeah, it was very radical.
Yeah, God doesn't hear the prayers of war makers. You have blood on your hands.
The Byzantines, when an army was victorious and came home, they made them wait 40 days before they could take communion.
I've heard that.
Which is pretty, for people who believe that communion is fairly vital to their continuing potential for salvation, it's quite heavy going.
Yeah. What do you think, Henry? You're quiet over there. Any thoughts? Is it a good move, bad move?
I don't have any issue with moving Catholic. I had a experience in a little bit of time where I was considering that myself. Just
kind of like, what did Churchill say about everybody's a liberal when they're young? Everyone's a socialist when we're young people, we all consider Catholicism until we grow up. I'm teasing. It's a joke.
Well, no, I had my own kind of reasonings and want to consider it. I think some of it was sacramental issues versus being in kind of the low church evangelical culture for my whole life. And so some of that was the novelty and the allure of something very, very, very different. But I also hung out at the Coptic Orthodox Church for a week too. So it's not like I was just doing the Catholic thing either.
Well, Coptic Orthodoxy, now you're really not properly Orthodox. If you're going Coptic, or is there a Coptic Orthodox and a Coptic church? You never know with these categories. Or
I have no clue. I just hung out with them for a week, crashed an infant baptism before the service, and then just hung out with them the rest of the day.
It's legit. I mean, I'm not saying it's not legit. It's a ancient church. Inevitably, if you stick around long enough for all these in any of these groups, you're going to start to learn where the skeletons are
for sure
buried, and you find out about these ancient divisions. And
yeah.
Well, I guess I got a question for you then, Mark, of kind of in your exploration, kind of two ways. One, have you considered just doing is it OCIA now? It's not RCIA anymore. The kind of classes.
I've signed up.
You have
signed up.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, because
they just finished this class, and you get graduated on Easter. So
yes, yeah, it's like a college courses. They won't admit you after a certain deadline.
Yeah.
Because I know that when I was going a couple times, I had some friends and a coworker, and they were like, you can go and do that. You don't have to commit to the bit afterwards. The whole thing is to be catechized at least without the total kind of commitment. Almost dare I say, a new members class before you become a member, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then I guess the other one, since you're bringing up history and skeletons of the closet, how important is what's the word? How important is, I guess, the historicity of a church and its kind of legacy to you in selecting a space to be, both, I guess, locally and then maybe just more historically? how important is that to you? You talked about skeletons in the closet, and that, I don't think that's avoidable. But when you're looking at kind of the church history, whether
Yeah.
that is the Protestant tradition you're coming out of, or where you're headed into the Catholic tradition, what is kind of the make or break? What are you looking for? I guess hoping to not see there in that, because I don't know how much you can dodge that necessarily.
That's a good question.
Historicity. What do you mean by historicity?
I guess just the history of it. So, you're talking about this Reformations book. There's no good guy per se in this kind of presentation of it. But then somebody might, lobby against maybe the Crusades, for example, in the Catholic Church, or what was probably, the only church at the time.
Yeah,
or something like that. How much does that influence where you go?
Well, the history of the church, I can see one thing that helped me take this first step, because that had always been a barrier. The Crusades, the tortures and the burnings and the this and that, all the trials and the inquisitions and so on. Certainly the history in the New World, or the history of the church with regard to with women, right? I mean, my opinion does not line up with the church around women in leadership. We differ, but I have to do a couple things there. One, I have to I had Cardinal Newman running through my head, because obviously the first thing you do if you're on social media at all and you are interested in becoming a Catholic, you know absolutely nothing about it, is you go look at Robert Barron stuff, right? So you listen to some Bishop Barron talk, and he's a big fan of a couple people. You'll hear him again and again talk about Aquinas, and you'll hear him talk about John Henry Newman. Both are now both are doctors of the church. John Henry Newman's the latest. Anyway, his view, because he was an adult convert from Anglicanism, and he was a leading force in a kind of spiritual revival within the Anglican Church. And when he converted to Catholicism, it was really controversial at the time, because he was already a man of prominence. But anyways, his view of the Catholic Church was, it's like an acorn and a tree, an oak tree. The tree doesn't resemble the acorn, but the essence of the tree is in the acorn. And as it develops and matures, so it changes shape and doesn't, in many, many different ways. And I think you can look at the history of the Catholic Church like that, is that it is maturing. It has matured. It will continue to mature. It will continue. Its leaders and ministers will from time to time make grave mistakes. But that doesn't mean the tree is rotten. It's just developing and growing through time. And in fact, these heretics or abominable individuals, like child molesters or something, their presence forces the church to deal with its weaknesses and its problems. So you could say modern people find it repellent to think of God using the horrors of human existence for good, but that may be what's happening. It's that when something very bad happens, the church has to look within itself and see how it could do better going forward. Because not being around is not an option, right? Committing kind of religious suicide is not an option. So it must continue. But from this point on, from the Holocaust on, how are we going to move forward as the church, as the body of Christ in this world? Mm-hmm. So that's my first thought there on that point. Go ahead. I think I heard something. I heard Guy, you got something?
I just wanted to say what Flame Chick 6 had said, that stop trying to build a religious life and start receiving one. And I think in a way, the difficulty for us is to actually just be, rather than to try and, think it all through all the time. And I think that's the difficulty for us. I mean, I tend not to not think about things. I tend to just drift into things, but that's not true. You've got to think about things, but you've got to, at some point, I mean, I'm not happy with my church in some ways. There are things in my church that but I'm not going to move, because there's a community there, and I think God put us there 20 odd years ago.
Right.
And I'm going to have to go because people are arriving back into the house. So
sorry. Well, I talked too long. I should have left. I wanted to hear more from you guys,
right.
but always appreciate.
Apologies.
Always appreciate you joining. Thank you.
I'll come back in about 4 weeks' time and get you again.
All right. Look forward to it. So yeah, that's on the history part. I guess that's what was the other part of your question? There was another half that I was thinking about that I should.
Well, I guess it was just that as a whole was the, I guess, criteria. Not what is the criteria, I guess, and I guess you kind of answered it just talking about the essence, or what is at the core of the church is still present and persistent, in spite of such horrors and stuff. And I guess my second part was like how much, kind of how many skeletons are in the closet before you're like, I don't know, versus maybe another kind of tradition or space. Because I know that, I don't know, from the impression in previous conversation with you, I know that that's come up before with like American, kind of religion right now, and some of that, and some of
that's
presently.
Right. Okay. Well, okay. Within my own. Hold on, real quick here. Yeah, I think I just want to hop on here. I just want to pin the link. Let's see here. I'll just repost it. The problem is every church has history. Often really bad stuff, right? All right, the link is pinned. When I talked to Paul Vanderklee about this, I guess going way back to a live stream, I said basically, if I got to find Jesus in the Catholic Church, or I'm done with Christianity.
Right.
Because the problem I have with it is with Protestantism in general is the democratic nature of it. Or lack of authority. So it kind of splits two ways, right? Because you can either have a democratic church, like say Paul's CRC, right? They, these churches, it's a very loosely managed system of accountability. I mean, of all the denominations I can think of, it seems as sound as any. So there is some oversight, but it's pretty loose. And then annually, synods get together and classes, and I don't remember or know all the verbiage for it. But you have districts, and then national or international or whatever. And but in the end, it's ultimately people electing representatives to go and make decisions on behalf of the church, and some of them very grave decisions, right? So in the 1990s, it was apparently women in ordained ministry, and then it was same-sex marriage and all that. So, and this last one, it nearly split them the first time, then it really split them this last time, right? So they basically, via a democratic process, decided to hive off 30% of their church, the denomination. Just you gotta. Here's the line. You're on this side or you're on that side, and I'm going in my head. I'm going, where's your authority? Based on what?
Yeah.
And they say, well, the Bible. Well, oh, you know,
Well, priesthood of all believers, but yeah.
well, I mean, but we've got some. This is, but it's where's your? There is that this. Your opinion is basically you have an opinion on a subject, and then we decide what the consequences are, and or whose opinion dominates the group based on how popular we are. And boy, Scripture warns us about that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't see any. There's no ground underneath it. There's nothing to stand on other than, well, it's our tradition. I have a tradition. Well, how old does a tradition need to be a tradition?
Sure.
Can I start a church? I mean, I know guys who do this. They maybe spend a couple of years at Bible college or something, and they go off, and if they're particularly charismatic, they'll start a successful church, and if they're not, they'll just flounder or frown for years and years and years. But they just start churches in an entrepreneurial way.
Yeah.
And people's lives are, marriages are decided.
I get that. Yeah.
Divorces and and then people who have, I know guys, there's really nice young man, 30 years, he's 30 years old, very charismatic, did some Bible training, but all the academic side is, he's got degrees, but you're like going, oh, what are those degrees really worth? Because I don't know any of the colleges mentioned, right? I've got a PhD in pastoral counseling. From where?
Yeah, right.
And but there's no certification, no oversight, but this young man will be telling people what to do with their personal lives and their families and their finances. And because he has the charisma and he has the management skills, but does he have the wisdom? And who's over that? Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just air over that.
Yeah, well, because it's just a business model and all that. And I get that. I'm really sympathetic to that, going to the Catholic Church for that,
And that's what I guess I didn't completely answer Guy's question. That's what I really find appealing, is that authority. It is an authority.
There's something above, right? On different levels. There's a hierarchy, right?
Right.
And there's something, secure about being in something like that. Which I get. It takes off, I'm sure, not that I know some of the pressure of not necessarily decisions or convictions to hold, but when all of that is in place and has been in place for the most part, historically, for forever, that does a lot. I think that helps a lot.
But there are things that great. I have to work at it. I'm going through the catechism. I read a passage of the catechism, and I'm like going, it talks about, hey, Ron.
Hi, guys.
I read a part of the catechism, and it talks about I wonder if it's handy, that we basically have the ability to, by nature, to know God. That it is built into us through our mind and through nature, through simple observation. You should be able to come to a faith in God. And I'm like, boy, I'll look up the exact passage in a minute, but I just
look at my catechism too. Look at it.
Which catechism is that?
I have the Catholic catechism.
Okay. Yeah, it's quite substantial. But I think I have this on my Kindle, so it should be pretty easy to pull up. But it was just, I stumbled onto that and I went, ooh, because I know too much about neurology and the way the human mind works. And I know how dependent upon conditions that are out of our control affect our thoughts and our feelings. Uh, you can't, some people cannot control their sugar habit for biological reasons. Even to the point where they're diabetic and they're getting their limbs getting chopped off as a result. But it's just like they can't, they'll die of this addiction. Um, and so the ability to tell me that, I mean, and I know people who believe in the devil, but they can't believe in God because they've had a certain kind of life experience, and it's tragic and horrifying. And for me to stand back and say, well, that's demonic or that's this or that makes me just like, oh, that's hard. So I chewed on that some with this passage from this paragraph from the Catechism, and it was challenging. It's still being, like I said, I'll probably just start reading passages from the Catechism and publicly argue with myself with what I read, because because it is challenging. But I would have the same problem. I mean, a Heidelberg Catechism, for example, which is Paul Vanderklay's church, and it's like, oh my gosh, I want to argue with that. That one makes me crazy.
All the like irresistible grace and all that stuff. That's the stuff you want to argue out of the Heidelberg, or what?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know it offhand. When the first time I tried it, I went like, yeah, this isn't for me. It's just I have to go back and get specifics. What's going on, Ron?
Yeah, what's up?
First off, hi both of you.
Good to see you.
This is a joke.
I have it right here, by the way. It came right up. This is one I've been fighting over with myself.
I almost, and I'm saying this not really, but just joking. I almost envy you. In that you don't, you're discerning Catholicism, but you're going towards it. It reminds me of, like, do you want to marry this girl? Like, it's something significant and worth weighing out, and you're drawn towards it. Whereas with me, I've had something, I talked to you guys about it a little bit, that encounter. And I feel like I'm getting drawn towards something. And I'm like, no, I don't want to marry her. Where, but it would almost be like, oh, do you want to not marry the love of your life? Really? No. And so I feel like we are actually on the same trail, or the same. It's like two ends of the teeter-totter towards something in the middle. I'm all experience. Well, I just find this conversation very interesting because it's a real wrestling, and it's not fun, at least on my end.
You shook your head, Henry?
The wrestling part, that's not fun. And this, Ron's whole like marriage to an individual, I think about that with Jesus right now, actually. And I think the whole faith, I feel that big spades, I don't know. I was yapping with some other guys that know about this, but I don't know if this is relevant, but we'll read what Jesus has to say. And that's a hard pill to swallow. Not some of the, more commonplace, believe in me and sins be forgiven, but like, it's really hard to, he says, I just read this morning, those who do my will and hear what I say and do it, right? I will call my mothers and brothers and sisters. And I'm like, nah, as the masses say, this is a really hard saying, when we actually get to some of the stuff that he wants you to do. And I don't know, I find myself all the time being like, man, like this is not easy, not doing a good job. And the grace side is sometimes I find difficult to pick up on more than anything. At least even, from Christ's words, because there is such a heavy call. So just in that wrestling and dealing with it.
It's where I'm still. I guess this is also relates to guys' questioning of me. I what I what I think the Catholic Church has to teach me is how to is veneration of proper worship and love of Christ, of Jesus, that I just don't have. I can do I'm a works guy. I can do the obedience thing in a lot of ways. I mean, I get it. That makes me comfortable.
Mhm.
Because I mean that's my liberalism, right? My liberal. It's like we know what we
Sure.
need to do. Let's go do it.
Mhm.
And we're sinning if we're not. See, so it's got me into trouble in the hot water with a lot of corner guys, right? Because how can you argue with this, right? But we know,
Yeah.
and it's because I'm a works guy.
Mhm.
Um, you'll know my faith by my works. That's to me easy peasy lemon squeezy, and I'll acknowledge where I fall short and keep. But then there's a process for continuing to move on. But we continue to move on. But um, the personal Jesus thing, not to play off on the Depeche Mode song, but that's where I struggle. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. It's a much more of a void. Ron operates better and probably with the personal Jesus, and to me, it's
That's
all
all
very
I do.
vague.
But
Yeah.
to be honest, I think we see each other reasonably on. I want to be careful. Maybe I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'll just say I see us looking at each other from two different sides of the same mirror. And they're both right places for us to be. But you're right. Mine is all woo. And I'm not saying yours isn't, but mine is woo centric. It's the,
Yeah. No, mine is
and
not woo. I mean,
yeah,
I have wooey experiences,
right,
and I probably came in 4 or 5 years ago back to the church from with a wooier
right.
in a wooier place, because
Mhm.
I was brought back by woo. I mean, it was just bam,
Mhm.
here. You
Mhm.
want here's a cross. Let me show you the cross. Oh, okay. I guess we're back into this God Jesus thing again. All right, where do I start? Well, we'll go back to the church, basically, more or less, the church or kind of church you were baptized in. Okay, we'll go there. And it was great. And in many ways, it was great. But I'm also terrified of the woo, because I want mental stability, because my history is,
Yeah.
I know what mental instability looks and feels like, and I don't want to have much to do with it.
Well, may I interrupt? And I apologize. Yeah, do you have a train of thought? Let me shut
Well,
up.
no, I'm just saying that that's part of the challenge for me. Is it's just
Right.
and maybe
Oh,
the Catholics bring a level of veneration and discipline. There's a lot to Catholic practice that is resonant with anybody who's practiced yoga deeply, or various forms of yoga or Buddhism. It's all over. I mean, it's just you can't. I mean, people walk around in denial of it, but I mean, you just they don't call them mantras, but
mhm. Right.
it's just rich rhetoric. It's just word choice, but it's there. It's all there. But there's a discipline to it. There's an oversight to it, and there's a purpose to it. And I think having that complete package gives me a little more calm, where I feel like I can maybe let go in this kind of cathedral setting where you have
Mhm.
the Eucharist up front, and you got Mary over here, and Jesus ascending over there, and you've got a priest, you got a guy in charge. He's part of the apostolic succession, and it's just like, I mean, I can kind of trust myself there. I'm
Right.
afraid to let go I don't want to let go in a church that doesn't have any authority to it. You know
What
what
do
I
you mean, like
mean?
what do you mean, like a Pentecostal, non-denominational, self-starting church? What's wrong with that? What?
But see, that's my point. Well, that's this passage, right? This passage I quoted that it's in the title. It says, Matthew 3:9, is it? And it's say, out of these stones, God can make children of Abraham. So don't take pride in this. You may have authority, but don't take pride in it. And I think I think there are some legitimate ministers of God in Pentecostal churches or in Baptist churches, Methodist churches, or any of the others. It's God works because God has his purposes done, and it's not for me to judge. I'm saying for my personal life where I'm at now and what I've been looking for is I've taken big risks in the past with letting go in various settings. And I've it's only by the grace of God that I've come out better than worse.
Hmm.
Because I've never been a big player with psychedelics. I didn't need to. See, I don't need to do drugs to trip. All I need to do is give myself the right set and setting, and I can trip because I'm hardwired. It's the bipolar thing. I'm hardwired for it. And some people would flatter me and come along and say, it's a gifting. And you catch me in the right mood, and I go, yes, it's a gifting. And what I look now like going, it's temptation.
Hmm.
Would you
I
say
won't
it's
say
a
it's
thorn in the side? If you would.
good,
Hmm.
but see, I've gotten so in the last. See, I shared with you guys. I think you guys all know about my experience where I wasn't back at the Church of Christ church very long. And the pastor, who I knew for a long time, said, hey, we've got some, shall we say, paranormal activity in a classroom, right? Well, I just come out of, I'd been in Ram Dass world, and I'd been hanging with Buddhists for years and years and years. And I just had this very powerful experience with Jesus. And I'm like going, no big deal. Greater is he that is in me and is he that is in the world. Well, let's go kick some demon ass. All right. So I
Mhm.
go in, and I don't say any of that, but my attitude was very flippant. And the other guy, there was another guy in there whose spiritual qualifications I would later learn weren't what they quite up to snuff. So anyway, but the three of us go into this room. Nothing happens. We pray. The pastor does the vineyard style command, and you know, you're done here, devil, out, and all that. He does the perfect vineyard type prayer, as everybody's been taught if you've been to the vineyard. Very much like the kind of prayers you pray, Ron. No big deal. Nothing happens. We're looking around for anything that mechanistically might have been causing the issues, but nothing. All right. Well, go home. I get real tired. It's Sunday afternoon, nothing else to do, so I take a nap. Wake up from the nap, and I have one and only time I've ever experienced full blown sleep paralysis. I
Oh,
thought I was trapped inside the image that came to my mind, I was trapped inside an old television tube, but you might think of
wow.
it as a being trapped inside a fishbowl.
Mm.
And I have no ability to move, and I'm looking through life, and I have this experience of sleep paralysis, and it's just this sense of doom. Oh, you've really lost your mind this time, and you're not getting out.
Mm.
You're trapped in this body, and it was a sense of spiritual. I'm like, the devil's with you, and he's this. You're done. This is it. This is how you take your exit.
Yeah.
And all I had was the Lord's Prayer came to mind. So I prayed the Lord's Prayer. I don't think I could say it out loud. I don't think I couldn't voice it. So in my head, I recite it once, twice. There's always three. Why is it always three? Third time, boom, I'm out of it. I'm like going, that was bone rattling, that experience. And so from that day forward, I said this to Paul Vanderklay privately not too long ago. I said, you're not going to, no way are you going to invite me into one of those prayer circles again without a lot of preparation. A lot of preparation. And even then, you're going to probably have, can we call in an expert? Well, and again, the Protestants, where do you find an expert? The Catholics have them. Oh, we got a 1-800 number. It's like that. We've got numbers we can call. Now, most of them don't even believe in it. I mean, see, that's another thing with the Catholics. You have the full spectrum is represented within the leadership. And there's a lot of skepticism, and then some who probably right in the middle who say, yeah, it's for real, but it's not my thing. And then you got the over to the far right or whatever, the hardcore traditionalists like Ripperger or some of your favorite guys who they practice exorcism on a regular basis. That's part of their job description. You got a number to call. They have practices, and they'll tell you why they believe what they believe. And I listen to what they believe, and I go, you're nuts, man. I mean, this demon does that. His name is such and such.
Are you talking about the Protestant or Catholic at this moment?
The Catholic guys.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They'll get listen to Ripperger talk to Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
His name is Father Chad Ripperger. Ripperger. Ripperger.
Yeah.
He's a little grim-faced guy. He's probably not much younger than me.
Right.
He does laugh a couple times, which made me feel better, because for a while, through half the conversation with Tucker, he never laughs once. I'm going, dude, do you ever laugh? But he does make a joke. He's very traditionalist, and there's a demon for this, a demon for homosexuality, there's two demons for lesbianism. I'm like going, dude, where do you get this stuff?
I listened to them. There's one for homosexuality and one for
male homosexuality, two for lesbianism. He'll say there's one for the butch lesbians and there's one for the feminine lesbians. The Lilith is the one for the more feminine lesbians.
Okay.
And I'm listening to all this stuff. I'm going, are you kidding me? And there's this demon called Osmodeus.
Yeah.
And he does this. And it's like, and he has names for them.
This is going to be so weird. Can I defend exorcists for a moment, if I may?
No, here's the thing though, is my point is I don't need to believe him.
Okay.
But if I'm ever called in another one of those damn prayer meetings, I know.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you.
I'm going to go, before you do this, maybe listen to some of this guy.
Yeah.
And maybe some of that guy. And then let's figure out there's stories like this in the Bible. The guys that get their asses kicked by a demon. It's in the book of Acts.
Well, not everyone gets their butts kicked.
No. But the right guys don't.
Yeah. Correct.
It's the apostles who come in and clean house.
Yeah.
Typically.
Yeah.
And the one church that can actually legitimately claim some degree of apostolic succession, we know where they're at.
Are there any Protestant how do I put this? There's a apostolic succession for Orthodox and Catholics. Yeah. Are there any that are recognized by Catholics in the Protestant world? I don't think
so.
Okay. So all Protestants are.
Well, you're saying from the you're saying Catholics respecting Protestants?
With
the apostolic thing?
I asked a question. Is there any And I think Henry answered it. It was, are there any Protestant lineages that are somewhat not poo-pooed?
They'll say, I learned this recently from the Carlos Ayres book about the Church of England, and that when Elizabeth, when they basically went in under Queen Elizabeth the First,
Yeah.
the daughter of King Henry the Eighth, that was the point at which they broke their priesthood broke the apostolic succession, because there had been a brief Catholic resurgency under Mary, and then when she died, Elizabeth comes in as along with the Protestants. The hard, they took a hard Protestant turn at that point, and she was in on the throne for 50 years, so that was half of a century. That it was at that point that they argue that they can't claim that at this point, and they're probably the better off. They claim it, though. They do. I know Methodists have tried to use that argument even with themselves. But I'm curious, though. I told that story. What do you think, Henry, being younger and wiser?
About what specifically, I guess?
I told you the crazy story.
Mm-hmm.
Do you um where do you do you have any thoughts with regard to prayer and the power? I mean, engaging in spiritual warfare of that nature, and is it? See, I mean, what Ron does very casually, I take at this point. I rather avoid. Let's just put it that way.
Sure. Well, never am I going to just, because I've never had a particular like woo extreme spiritual warfare experience like that, by any stretch. But I know some very charismatic individuals at my old church and some stuff like that. And, you'll tell me that and be like, yeah, okay, makes sense. I hope I never had to deal with that. Um, with regards, I guess, to kind of, I guess, the expertise of being able to confront or combat that. Um, I don't know. I get the security of the kind of the Catholic tradition in which there is experts or individuals in some sort of continuity that can, handle that. I think a lot of Protestantism and evangelicalism, there is not equipped necessarily to handle that kind of stuff, by any stretch. And I think at best it's the screw tape letters kind of, mindset, not mind. I don't want to call it a mindset, but I think of the screw tape letters. I think of Lewis's satire and that. And I think those instances that screw tape brings up to deter or to drive one away from the faith, I think those scenarios are common for the layperson as a whole. But such intense supernatural spiritual attacks, like I got nothing on that, necessarily. With
God bless you.
regards,
Thank God for it. So yeah, you don't need it.
and with regards to prayer, I've been thinking about this recently of some stuff, and it was in Luke, and it was somewhere else. They hit the bottom of the or no, this guy pulls up to Jesus after the Sermon on the Mount. Maybe it's in Matthew. I don't remember. And it says, "Lord, if you will, you can do this." And he's like, "I will do that for you," right? And he heals him. And then later he comes down from the Mount of Transfiguration, and the father's like, if you can do this. And Jesus is like, what do you mean if I can do this? Like, do you know who I am? Right. And this language and this approach to Christ and for his healing or for his power is very different. And one is in total confidence and submission to the will of the Father and to Christ at this moment, right? You can do this. It's your shot. You call the shots in this situation, right? It's the first one, right? If you want to, you can,
Mhm.
which is a full understanding of the ability exists to do that. And the other one is like, well, I don't know if you can, seemingly, right? Because your disciples didn't do it. They all failed to do this. And So I was thinking of that, and there's some other point you made, kind of with regards to this. Uh, oh, it was just kind of your kind of burden with these abilities, just kind of get in these woo zones, for lack of a better word. You're like, I don't need to take something to go on a trip. It just happens. And then the other thing too was, you have that apprehension with people coming to the knowledge of God in these way, shape, or form, right? Whatever you brought up for the catechism, and I don't know what passage that was. You were wrestling with that, right?
Right. I got it here if you wanted to listen to it, but yeah, go ahead.
But I guess that's the thing I'm thinking about with some of my own stuff, and kind of maybe what you're going through. Like, everything is within his power, I guess, and it really is just kind of up to him to call the shots. And so to have that maybe attitude of prayer and disposition, like, truly, and I don't know, I don't know how to get to that point. I think that's a lifelong journey where you can just be like, if you want to, you can do this, right? And allowing that to, like, I guess that's thy will be done in another way to say it, but to have that, and like, as a full force, confident attitude in all things, including, I suppose, like a spiritual attack like that, um, I think that takes a lifetime, and takes a lifetime to do. And that, I guess, kind of also answers maybe the personal Jesus thing, struggling with that.
Mm.
Like, Lord, this is really hard. These things are really difficult. These things are an affliction, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I guess that's maybe the attitude to have too, Mark, of like, is Jesus super personal to me right now? I don't know. Is it like I can just do the works thing? Yeah, right. But Lord, if you can do this, if you want to, you can draw us closer to these things. And so I don't know, maybe that's some of the attitude to have in some of this journey, because I know that church hurt and leadership troubles, and a history of attitudes, different attitudes and dispositions on politics and whatever other junk is happening. But like, Christ holds that all. He holds all that tension, and he holds all that tension for us. And I'm not speaking from any place of expertise, but I'm trying to figure out that, like, he can hold all that, and he can do that. And I actually think you being in the Catholic Church, and with its very scholastic disciplines that have existed for forever, might actually get you to that point. It is stabling. It's a stabilizing thing. It's all about a deep concentration, meditation. Like, very much like you said, it's very much in like a tradition you've been before, but it is grounding. And I think maybe really putting that stuff into practice, however people might counsel you, maybe that, I don't know, maybe that could get you that point, to the personal Jesus, to which you are like, yeah, okay, you can do this, if you want, and I'm here. I don't know if that answered anything. I feel like I just was kind of rambling, but
No, that was helpful because
so
I don't know. It's great. I mean, it's because there are times when I just go like, I have my Bart Ehrman moments, and it's just like,
sure.
just why am I even doing perfect? There are lots of people who are perfectly happy who don't go even bother with this stuff,
Well,
and
I I guess that's another thing I would ask, I suppose, is, can you, in spite of all of this, and I'm asking myself this too, and I'm sure Ron's asked this before, in spite of whatever has been endured, whatever will be endured within the church, within people who are associated with it, whichever, like, how people claim the name of Christ, etc., do you trust that Christ can hold that all in his hands? And that he can hold you in his hands above all
well,
else? Or at least, even when it doesn't seem like it, can you stick around with that idea?
well, and that's my works personality, right? Trust is there's the word trust, and there's believe in terms of as an intellectual confidence,
Sure, it's
right?
pistis, it's faith, which is often like a duty or loyalty. And that
Yeah,
looks
and
like something.
I'm better at the duty side than I am at the emotional, intellectual, confident side. So it's like, if you know, uh, I think that communicates. It's just that I just trust. I'll just trust by. It's like, well, it's what the Father says to Jesus. I believe, Lord, help my unbelief.
Yeah.
I live in that space a lot.
Me too.
Okay, so I'm glad I'm not alone.
No, I live that all the time. But I guess to that too of like, I got to figure this out because I like doing a lot. I can't not be still. I always feel like something needs to be done on a Saturday, and I've burned myself out on my job. I'm like, well, I'm gonna like write something and be productive. I'm like, no, chill out. You know, like in Exodus, the flood, or not the flood. Moses pulls up with the Israelites. They're about to part the Red Sea. All the Israelites are freaking the heck out, and you know, Moses says like, chill out, or God's like, tell him to be still and let me just do my thing. Essentially, right? It's that whole like, be still and know God. And then Jesus later has that conversation with Mary and Martha, and he's like, Martha, if you only knew, right, what was happening right here in the moment, you'd be so much less concerned with preparing a space and doing all this stuff. And right, Mary's just sitting there neglecting all the busy tasks. And I don't know. I think perhaps doing nothing, maybe in the physical literal sense, um, you know, might do some good. And this is me talking to myself. Because I had this thought once. I was like, well, why do we have to stand still, or why do we have to be still? Why do we have to just not do anything? And I don't know if you've ever had this of like things just happen, lots of crazy stuff's going on in life. You're super duper busy, and you just kind of wish the time could stop, right? You could just take a breather. You could just be like, all right, everything just needs to like stop going on. I need to stop dealing with this. Things need to just take a pause, right? And I was sitting there and I was thinking like, oh, that's what prayer is. Prayer is our ability for time to kind of cease for a moment.
Right.
And not in the explicit, Lord petitions, Lord, do this for me, Lord, help me with this thing, but like just sitting there. I'm learning how to do, I'm figuring out how to do, just sitting there and doing something. When it was cold out in Florida in the winter, when it got really low, I'd go out at night in the cold on break, and I have a little pond by the apartment complex. And I would just sit there outside and I'd look at the stars, and you know, sometimes it would take a minute for my thoughts to quiet, or I would just stew in my own head, but I'd sit there. And if I had to get something out of my mind, out of my chest, out of my heart, I would, you know, and but then I would just sit there and look at the stars and what's left of them in the light pollution. And I don't know, in those moments, there's that understanding that, you know, things are fine right now. You can take a pause.
Yeah.
As chaotic as things are, the stars are still hung up in the sky. The ground beneath my feet is not shaken apart. Right? The world is still held together, and it's not held together by me. And so that's that resting, being still, maybe not doing anything. Anselm says, good practice, Henry. I suck at this practice. I'm horrible at this practice. As we speak right now, I haven't done that properly in probably a month and change. And I regret it. I'm really convicted by not doing such things. But yeah, stop monkey brain. I don't know. And that's all I got. And I think that where you're headed with Catholicism, I don't know, I'm on board with you. I don't know if you're looking for any affirmations of it by any means. I know you've had critics and blah blah blah, whatever, but like, I don't know. There's a space, there's a tradition and a discipline and something greater than yourself you're already putting yourself into, kind of structurally, figuratively / literally, with the way the Catholic Church works. And then already too, like you're held in place by God. And he has this institution in place too, and you're in there. And I know people who are doing really well in that space too, who came out of my old Baptist traditions and stuff, and I've never seen them better. And so I don't know, take whatever I've said there with whatever you wish, but
Thank you.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know, but I'm curious what Ron's thinking now, because Ron.
No, I like that last part there, Henry, what you just said. I like that a lot. That gives me hope. That's reality, what you just said. That you see your friends in diverse places doing well. I think Mark and I can agree on this. Actually, all three of us. Like, when it gets too complicated, I always try to work the problem backwards. Let's just start with God is real.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've met him. Like, okay, let's just Jesus. Are we all in agreement with Jesus? Yeah, okay. And then he's good. He's been good, and we all want to follow. And then after that, it just gets a little bit muddy. But I like what you said, is just trusting him in the mud to keep you upright from slipping. And this is stuff I like what you said. It's I'm maybe we are trying to figure out where God wants us, and God's like, I know where I want you. You just need to stop. Just where, go where you're called. I wonder, Mark, is nobody comes to God unless they're drawn. So is this actually God's drawing that you're dealing with? And that's cool. And the same with me. It's just it's like really meeting a UFO. You're like, oh, okay, I didn't see this coming. Like but it's good. And the only thing I have at this point that's solid is I feel like that parable with the blind guy, when the Pharisees are grilling him, going, who healed you? He goes, I don't know. All I know is I can see now.
Right.
It's like, you tell me and we'll both know. But then it's Jesus who shows up and finds the guy. So it kind of goes to what Henry was saying, like, this ain't you. This is not on us.
Yeah.
But it also, I feel like Mark, I feel like it's always on me to figure it out. Like it's my nature. And then,
Me too, preaching, yeah.
and then one thing Neil said to Dallas, he just said, I've talked with him, and he's like, well, I have nothing for you except maybe just rest in the mystery. That's not bad. And the one thing, after I had my encounter, the one thing I haven't done, but I'll try to do, is just to be quiet about it. Like and it's such a weird thing to have something amazing. And they're like, okay, now don't talk about it. But I also feel like I'm being dragged towards something kicking and screaming. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mark, that's why I feel like I'm like, Mark, this sounds so familiar, but yeah, it's confusing. It really is. And I don't want to complain about a gift. I don't want to. I think does that make sense? Okay. Because I don't want to bring it out in the open anymore. You guys, I think I've talked with a bunch, and in private I'll share everything, but after this, it ain't nobody's business, and maybe that's the best.
Well, you are talking on the internet, so it's
Yeah, but there's a few of us here, and most people, we kind of know each other, but I'm not even hashing it out anymore. It feels like we're both wrestling.
Yeah.
And as much as I take it real serious. Like I think we all do. And that's why it's so.
Well, that's the crazy thing is that's the coroner's full of guys who are taking it very seriously. Okay. There's a universe out there of people who don't take it that seriously. They're doing fine. Some of them, some of them not.
No, that's the scary thing, though, is thinking that they are doing it fine on their own. That's
maybe so.
That's a scary place to be. That's a really scary place to be like, I got this. I have the universe figured out. I don't know. That's not somewhere that I would encourage. No, I don't encourage I've got family and their philosophy is really bad and it's not well thought out. And it's really scary conceptually for them to just be like,
You mean they're just all whatever? They're just
it's an all whatever. It's a positive nihilism that hasn't even been like properly figured out. There's nothing below
Right.
them and there's nothing above them.
Oh,
Yeah.
And
But there's some people who live very contented lives, successful lives without all of this internal rigmarole I go through. I mean, it's
well, that's a
it's,
grace then for them. That's a grace for them.
and
Whether
I
or
don't
not
know.
they
I mean,
it.
I don't. I can't only be what I am, right? I can only be what and I don't really know what it's like to be in their skin. I mean, it's like Instagram or Facebook, right? This family has all these beautiful pictures, these great vacations. Everybody's always smiling. Next thing you know, they're getting a divorce. I mean, you can't believe the veneers at all. But well, it's like I said with Paul also recently, PVK. It's just like, when does the wrestling stop?
When
And
we're
in
done,
Jacob's
when
case, it
we're
was when
done.
he got his leg crippled, right? That's kind of what it's like.
I don't know. Maybe.
And even
Sure.
then, in that
When you're
moment,
dead?
anyways. Let's see.
I don't
So
know.
when
I
you're
think he
dead,
still had to wrestle with it because he gets curb stomped per se, and then
Yeah.
there's a lot of trouble after that still for his family. He doesn't camp out in Bethel immediately like he should have, and a bunch of tragedy befalls his family there, and
true.
some other stuff happens. And so even after he's wrestled with God, a bunch of nonsense still happens. A bunch of nonsense still happens.
But
that.
but then
kinda
I
brought
want to
upon his life.
wonder. See, but I can. This is my space that I'm in. It's just the thought that I came up as I'm telling you guys this, and you're talking back at me, and I'm going, there's a purpose to it, though. All the suffering, and hassles and pain and difficult, all this wrestling that I go through. It's only if it turns me into someone that can be of service to those people and God, as it kind of when they need it. See, nobody knows they need God until they need God. Have you seen that? I mean, a lot of people do really, really well, and then bam, they get hit, and it's God time,
Yeah.
And maybe that's what the church is for, or I mean, us, all of us collectively. That's we Christians are for, is to be there for people that we're kind of miserable half the time. We don't know up from down half the time. We're constantly fretting about things that the world thinks is like, what a waste, like, why aren't you making money or having fun or something? And we're like having sleepless nights about what church to attend. But when it's go time, when people who don't previously know God need God, there's a voice there, a person to actually see and talk to and engage with, and maybe I can then be his ambassador or whatever, be the carrying hands or what have you. And same with you guys, as we all go through it. We don't. So saying that out loud makes me feel a little better.
Oh yeah, that's legit though. That's a fact.
Well, I think it's biblical and it's traditional, and it makes sense to me. It makes sense to it gives a purpose. Well, even with the historical ups and downs of church history, right? Be it Catholic or Protestant or Orthodox, it's all up and down. I mean, and you look at the history of it and you go, when has the church ever had its golden age? Its golden age was with Jesus for 3 years. And after that, it's been rocky
And
ever
even
since.
then there was a scandal.
Oh, and it ends in a crucifixion. Well, and it doesn't quite end in a crucifixion, of course. But I mean,
the church dies.
Yeah, I mean, every time the church has been against the ropes. Christianity, when I say the church, Christianity has been against the ropes so many times, and it doesn't seem to, it just keeps coming back. And it comes back. I look at the Catholic Church today, I'm like going, it's stronger than ever. I mean, history's repeating itself. I mean, in funny ways that, like, not to get political with anybody, but I mean, when representatives of the United States government is unhappy with the Pope, just like the kings of France were unhappy with the Pope or whatever, the kings of Europe of this country or that country or empire, they're unhappy with the church. They want to capture the church. They want the church to do its bidding. And just this last week, within the United States government, representatives thereof, called in the Pope's representative to the United States and chewed him up and down, telling him that the United States is going to do whatever it wants to do, and you need to support it because we are the power. We are God's power on earth. Because we got the guns and we got the machines and the big army and all that. And, but the Pope is being the Pope. And it's just watching it, but there was a time, as Paul Van der Klees pointed out, when the church wasn't very strong. And it had a very rough time in the 19th century in Europe. And it's trying to rebuild itself still. And Mussolini comes along, and they look at Mussolini and says, well, maybe this is our way to kind of back into power. We get back into relevance. And boy, were they wrong there, right? But the church survived that. I mean, it survived. If it's survived, and now we've had a succession of, I think, really solid popes.
John Paul II.
Yeah, starting from John Paul II onward. I mean, those are the ones I remember the best. So it's like, but the church throughout the last 1800 years has had a rough time of it. It's always doesn't seem to make any difference. And what God wants from us is it seems like, to me, that gives me a sense of like hope. Right. That it's been rough on all the others. It's rough on me, but here we are, and we're it's whatever God wants. That's kind of that's the thing that, you want to be, right? Is you want to be like, I want to be ready to, when it's go time, I want to be able to be of service. And that's kind of the hope and dream. And but boy, is it messy getting to that point. And it's just like, because I like reading. Okay, let me read this passage to you. You guys can, and we can kind of wrap it up with last thoughts. And if you have any thoughts on this, or we can keep going. I'm in no hurry. But this is early on in the Catholic Catechism, and so it's paragraph 44. Man is by nature and vocation a religious being. That's a Paul Van der Kleesism. He loves that stuff. Coming from God, going toward God. Man lives a fully human life only if he freely lives by his bond with God. That's loaded. Paragraph 45. Man is made to live in communion with God, in whom he finds happiness. When I, quote, when I am completely united to you, there will be no more sorrow or trials, entirely full of you. My life will be complete. End of quote. And that was taken from St. Augustine's Confessions. This is another thing with the Catechism, Ron. If you've not read it, they quote from all sorts of sources.
I might
It's
read
very
it.
interesting. It's worth it. It's a good read. This was.
I wouldn't read it in like order. I kind of just use it as a reference book. Like, I don't know if cover to cover is the way to read the Catechism.
Okay.
I don't know.
Oh,
Mark.
really? That's how I'm doing it.
I don't know. I tried that, and I've had some friends that are like, particular concerns, use it as a reference. I mean, you can, I guess.
Kind of like an encyclopedia, then.
Yeah, I kind of remember looking at it and being like, I can't do this. Like,
okay, I gotcha.
Here's
sorry,
paragraph.
not to be
No.
prescriptive about how to read it. I just remember
No,
being
but
I don't know.
I got you.
Well, there is
Okay.
Mike Schmidt. Father Mike Schmidt has his catechism in a year program. He does a Bible in a year program, then he does a
Hmm.
catechism in a year program, where you work through the catechism over 365 days. So he if you like um, Mike Schmidt or Smits, something like that. Anyway, he's another Minnesota Catholic, and he's very energetic. And if you like his personality, he's got a program to work through the whole catechism in a year. Paragraph 46. Yes, paragraph 46. When he listens, I'm guessing this is, man, it's small h. When he listens to the message of creation and to the voice of conscience, man can arrive at certainty about the existence of God and the cause and the end of everything. This is the paragraph I got hung up on.
Mm-hmm.
The others were all pretty leading up to it. I've heard Vanderklay say the same thing. I've heard the same thing going to Christian school my whole life. Man is a religious being by nature. Although we would, I've long ago given up using the phrase man as a generic reference for human beings or humanity. But okay, so be it. I can go along. Then man is made to live in communion with God. That's pretty standard stuff. But when he listens to the message of creation, I mean, that phrase right there is loaded.
Hmm.
And to the voice of conscience. So you don't need, we're not talking about Holy Spirit. We're not talking about revelation at this point. This is basically, as I read this is the natural revelation, what Protestants would call, PVK would call natural revelation. Just looking at the world, how it's ordered, how it functions, your normal everyday kind of life experience, and to your own conscience. Okay. It's interesting because some people don't seem to have a conscience. Man can arrive at certainty. This is that word. Oh man, because I don't, kind of my claim to fame, so to speak, in the corners. I don't need certainty to live in faith. And certainty
Oh,
almost makes me nervous. I get
that's
really
it.
nervous. In fact, I got a
Oh,
scripture for that. I got a scripture, 1 Corinthians 10:12. If you think you stand, be careful lest you fall. I mean, certainty really scares me, but they use the word certainty.
can can I? Is that certainty in God? Maybe.
Yeah, no, man can arrive at certainty about the existence of God,
Oh, okay. Right.
the cause and end of everything. The cause and end of everything. So, in other words, for me, this passage is like, okay, we're going to highlight this in red or something, or pink or something. And then see, I'm hoping that, like, as I work through it, I'm much further along it. This is a funny passage because I went through this the first time and glanced over it and didn't notice it. It was only on the second reading that I stumbled. So now I'm hoping that, well, okay, now I'm going to look at the rest of the catechism and see how well it helps me grok paragraph 46. What do you guys think? I mean, does the natural world just inspire faith in you, or
No,
belief, or
well,
certainty?
it should
Certainty.
no. The certainty is only in the idea that there is a creator and that there is one above us.
Right.
That's basically our existential, like, where do I come from? Who am I? What am I doing? Right? And everybody can come to that. Everybody has some sort of existential, whatever that might be, because there's a certainty that there's something greater than ourselves. Even if it's okay. Yeah, there's a certainty there's something greater than ourselves, whether or not the atheists maybe want to admit that, right? That's the anxiety and tension that exists. And so yes, that certainty exists. And if you're honest with yourself, then there is something that is higher and created above, or not, that exists above you, not created, just something higher above you. And that's Paul's whole thing in Romans 3,
Yeah.
right? We take creation and then they misattribute it to the world, to the created world. And so that certainty exists. Yes. The the issue then is, right, where do you attribute that, you know,
Well, who's God? But see,
right, who is
they're to
God?
them it's very. I mean, according to this, I mean, it's a capital G God. It's I assume they're talking about Yahweh, the God of Israel, and the Father, Son, Holy
Well,
Spirit.
sure. The problem with that is if Christ, if Scripture is the Word of God, right? Like God communicates to us through His Word. Christ is the incarnate Word. You know, Paul says, "Who is going to hear if there's no one to speak the Word to people?" There needs to be a little bit more than that, and
It
so
can't
that's
stop here. We got to
no,
keep
it cannot
going.
stop. No, it can't stop there. And I don't
Right.
know if I'd have to look at that myself, but with the actual like reading and stuff, because
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
gonna
have it
keep.
on
I
me.
mean, yeah, it's. But it's.
But it
I
can't
know.
stop there.
It can't stop there.
I,
Ron,
I wouldn't.
Ron's packing up. Let's find out what Ron has to say before he leaves
No, no,
town.
no, no. I'm enjoying this. Actually, I need to listen. It's
What does the word certainty do for you? The word certainty
no,
for
I think
me keeps me
mhm.
kind of off.
No, no, I think I totally agree with what Henry said. That's not it's help me out scripturally because it was in Hive, it was in the comments. I think William posted it. Like creation bears witness to God. You know, there's so it's just that
But
there's
you guys have heard the new atheists, right? Where they talk about it's like the old new atheist argument. I mean, this is 20 years now that they've been talking
uh,
like this, but it's like nature. Oh, I'm sorry, Paul Allen. Didn't see you in this behind the stage there. Sorry about that. Paul Allen was stuck in the green room. The the you got children with cancer, or there
right.
are there's that fungus that will take over an ant's brain and make the ant into basically a zombie to do its will. And that's all part of nature. They talk about the cruelty of nature and the seemingly arbitrary nature of nature, right? So, a deer is born only to be eaten by a wolf. Uh, I'm not. It's never an argument to me. It's like I've never
Well,
bought into the argument as solid proof against a good God, but it is an argument, and a lot of people buy into that. I mean, some people have even made the argument that God has to be evil. Looking at the world, the creator of the universe as it is, that God must be antichrist, for lack of a better, the opposite of everything we call true
well,
and good. And
that I don't know. I feel like that kind of just assumes that we could be presumptuous and think that we know better as to how the universe should work or how people and animals and blah 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 should like interact, etc. Like, who are we to decide that we can be in some way greater than God in our existentialist in our existential crisis, right? If we perfectly know or definitively know that there's a created being, we should then also definitively know that we are beneath him. That if he is the truly that which is highest, we cannot stand on par with him. And there should be a humility there, and then in turn with that as to the way the world works, or the if we want to do the theology like the sin nature of the world or the corruption of the world and in its current state, etc. Like, you have to have a humility with that to be able to accept kind of other talking points from that point forward. Like, that's, I don't know, that's all I got on that. Like, you have to know that you are small and that you are not the one, like the Sam Harris thing, like, oh well, if Jesus just gave us like the formula for penicillin, we'd have been better
right.
off. Like, you don't get to say that,
But
because
see,
you
for
are
me,
not God, and you are
humility.
also like operating off of 1,000 years of tradition already.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate what you're bringing to this conversation, Henry. And let me
Here are
just
my
say
treasure.
that humility for me also pushes me more towards uncertainty than certainty. When I go towards certainty, I get less humble. But there must be some middle space there. Paul Allen, you joined us. Something I said,
Oh,
I must have embarrassed myself in some way. So you came on to help me
no.
out.
I guess I jumped on when it was like there are
Can you lean into your microphone
Oh,
just a little, or
can you
turn it
hear
up?
me? Is this better?
Okay, click on your. That's a little bit better, but if you check your, do you see your little cog symbol at the bottom, or somewhere on your StreamYard? And
Where's
you
that place?
can adjust your microphone volume that way, or select your microphone. You can also do it by just clicking on the microphone, maybe. Are you doing it from a tablet or a PC or something?
Can you hear me now?
That's better.
That's better. Sorry, I'm on my phone, so that's it's not
Oh,
great.
okay. Yeah, you got to lean way into the phone, maybe. Okay, no
All
worries.
right.
It can hear you better. Go ahead.
So the Catechism, when it was originally written, was intended as a reference book with the idea that people would write like reader's editions more intentionally for people who just want to read it all the way through.
Okay.
And I know this because my dad was friends with Cardinal Schönbrunn, who was running the project of writing the Catechism back in the 90s. Anyway, and my dad wrote his own sort of reader's edition. So so he anyway, so I think that was sort of the intention. But I mean, if you're enjoying reading it cover to cover, like if it's working for you, go with it. Like,
Well, you just endorsed Henry's point of view. Treat it more encyclopedically, treat it as a reference manual. That explains the numbered paragraphs thing and all the footnotes. And it's really fun. The Kindle version, the footnotes are really easy to access because they're hypertext. So you tap on the hypertext number and it pops up the reference. And in some cases they quote at length anybody from Aquinas or whomever, and it's in part of the passage. It's a great resource, but like I said, when I come across a passage like just one word, see, my brain is really weird. I just one word like certainty will just I'll get bogged down on that. Days, weeks.
yeah.
I'll walk around wondering, I can't do this. It's like, who did I say this to? Oh, somebody in a private. It was in a private text back and forth with CW, and I'm not divulging anything of him privately about him. But he just asked, why pseudo Catholic? And I said, because I don't know if I am able to be one. I don't know if I have it in me. I don't know if I'm good enough or decent enough or have the discipline. I'm lacking in so many of the graces that are necessary to be a good Catholic. And that's not false modesty, folks. I'm telling you the truth. It is. And then when I hang up on a word like that, and I'm like going, that one word is maybe enough to keep me out of the kingdom. I'm like going, I look going, I don't know. But then I work through it. See, this is what I'm saying. And then I'll talk myself through it, or I'll talk to you guys. I'm kind of okay. That makes sense. And Henry says something. So you say something. I go, okay, that's not as bad as I thought it was. Let's keep reading.
And I think the certainty there is, this is like, if you go back and read, is because that's in the summary. That for certain point was in like one of the summaries. I think like 34 and 35. It's basically what it's saying is, it's basically just pointing to Aquinas's 5 ways.
Okay.
And just saying, all right, there are these arguments, and I think it's responding more to, you can only, the problem with all these tensions are that they're responding to 2 different things. On the other side, you're going to say, no, the only way to know God is through revelation. It's like the secret knowledge thing, the Gnostic thing. And it's like, all right, I think the argument is, no, you can, if you contemplate the world, you can come to, there's this path to understanding that, okay, no, there's a prime mover, and then initial source of being. I'm not going to do the 5 ways really well off the top of my head, but and we call that God. I think that's, if you go to 34, that seems to be more of what they're saying. And but then I think the word certainty, it's like there's a path one can follow that is independent of revelation, and then but once you get into the next few paragraphs, it's like, no, but revelation adds to that. Henry, you're going to say something, I can tell.
No, I'm just listening. I'm good. No, I guess never mind. I'm gonna wrap up my thoughts later. So
I'm not really like, certainty is a very strong word, and I recognize like those proofs are not like definitively convincing to everyone, and that's, but I think it's also, I think there's a responsiveness to, I think it really is more in response to, well, no, the only way of knowing is through revelation, and there's this disconnect, which is, I think, the opposite argument, which is, and I think keeping the tension is sort of important in my mind. So I wouldn't have put the word certainty in there, but it's from Vatican I, so.
See, that's another thing, is the history of the catechism. I know just little bits and pieces of it, but I want to learn that there apparently the first proper, what we call a catechism, the first proper catechism, its origins go to Trent, right? I mean, it's like fairly late in church history. We had the Didache and they had local manuals, but it became, well, like this is what the church believes in this robust sort of way, is a response to the Protestant Revolution, right?
I think the liturgy has always been more the catechism, functionally the catechism, than a written catechism. And most people couldn't read.
That's right. That's true. There was no point to a catechism really going before the printing press, because even then it was 200, 300 years later that people that were generally literate, but nobody, it would only been available for, I mean, the clerics, or a tiny minority of people before 1500 could read.
And like the liturgy of the hours and the monastic readings are probably more Catholic than the catechism.
Okay, explain to me what that is, so I understand. I don't want to.
No, all right. If you want to, if we're going from pseudo Catholic to super Catholic, like download there's like a breviary app, and it's I forget, it's it's basically just a it has the liturgical prayers of the church, basically what the priests are supposed to pray every day, and it has like morning prayer, midday, evening prayer, night prayer. But then there's a liturgy of the hours, and it has basically a reading from one of the church fathers. Generally, it's like I don't know, you'll get like a homily from Basil or something. Every day, sort of as a reflective reading.
And where do I download this?
Just a second. Let me.
I don't mean to put you on. I just was wondering. You had a title for it or something like it.
iBreviary.
Spell that, because I'm not hearing you very well. And he froze. Yep, we lost Paul. Maybe Paul will come back.
There he is.
He's back.
You're back. You're back.
All right, I'm putting in chat.
Claire likes certainty. Breviary. Oh, okay. Breviary or something. Breviary. Does that sound? Am I pronouncing it right? Is that it?
That's right. So like it's breviary, but
Okay.
Hi,
Okay.
Mark.
breviary.
Hi, guys.
Oh, hey Ron.
Are you
sorry.
leaving, Ron?
Yeah, it's time for Mexican.
Oh, okay. Where are you going?
It is, there's a restaurant by us. We've been going there so long, they bring our drinks out immediately. And they bring out 2 salsas because I am a unrepentant salsaholic.
Yep.
So, but this has been fun. Seriously, I lost signal, so I had to come back in and just say hi,
Appreciate it.
bye. No, this has been
Thanks for hopping on and talking to us.
Yeah. So, Henry, good seeing you. And Paul Allen, nice meeting you.
We'll have to talk more
We'll see you,
about where
Ron.
you're being pulled privately
Yeah. Okay.
if you want
Well,
to talk more.
this kind of conversation I'm comfortable with, and in private, oh yeah, we can let it rip. But dude, if it was easy, everyone, I don't know how. It's worth the fight. It's just that's it.
I
All
agree
right.
there. Thank you,
I'll
Ron.
see you guys. Bye.
Bye. Let's see here. Okay. Yes.
Anyway,
Breviary. It is a. This is. I'm just going to read from the Google here. It says it is a liturgical book used in the Catholic Church, Anglican Communion, and other traditions to pray the liturgy of the hours or divine office, containing psalms, hymns, prayers, and readings for daily prayer. So I'm culturally familiar with this stuff, but this is you'd hear it referenced here or there in a novel or a book or something, and or movie, but to know that it's actually available to buy and go through oneself, that's interesting.
I had my parents buy me the full set when I was in my 20s, and so I have the I have a full set of breviaries, but which is a lot. Um, but then there's an app, and it's all easily done on your phone now. so
So go to Google Play.
yeah, no, Google Play iBreviary, and it's but I think like what was my point? My point was that the prayers of the church are more central than the catechism in a real way. Like what the breviary, the office of readings, is much older than the catechism, and the catechism we currently have in its current form is like 30 years old.
Right.
Which is a very good reference resource, but it's not, it doesn't hold the same historical place in the tradition. I think that's a clean statement. Anyway, did you go to Easter Vigil, Mark?
I did. Oh, a vigil, not visual. The vigil is the overnight thing.
It's the evening service Saturday night.
Right. No, I didn't do that part. I should have, but I didn't. I mean, there's a lot of things that I should do that I have. You recommend it, I guess.
I would say it's recommended, but it's not. I mean, most Catholics aren't going to go because it's 3 hours and and it's late. But I think it's worth doing once, for sure. And I brought my kids, and 2 of the 3 made it through.
How do you manage with kids under those circumstances? I mean, is it tag team with the wife, or how do you? Because when a kid taps out, somebody's got to go with them, right?
Yeah, I think there was an understanding that my wife was not feeling great, and the youngest was not feeling great, so they tapped out early. But I think generally, like if it's a normal Sunday service, there's expectation that you can survive an hour. When we're going on reading 3 of 7, it's already deteriorating. That we just sort of call it. But I think it depends on the ages too.
Yeah.
But but there's a long sort of sung thing called the Exultant, which is sort of this prayer at the beginning of the Easter Vigil. And I'm pretty sure it's written by Thomas Aquinas. I could be wrong. Henry, do you know if I got that right? I don't know.
I'm uncultured and illiterate, actually, unfortunately. I don't know
Yeah,
as much as
well,
I sound like I
anyway.
did.
It's that would be a fun thing to go through, because it's like just both prayer and it's like theologically really dense. And I think there's like things like that which are like more central in Catholicism than the catechism, although the catechism is, it's important, but I would say it's less central than something like the prayers of the Easter Vigil liturgy, which are more participatory. Does that make sense, or am I just rambling?
No, you're helping. See, this is my weakness. I knew this right from the start. Before I even jumped in, I knew there is a Catholic mode that I'm just not a mode of being, or a mode of engaging God, that is just different from the Protestant approach. And it's, I think all my talk about the catechism is my Protestantism leaking out, right? It's give me a book, give me the words, let me figure out what you guys are about, and then that'll help. But there's a mystical side to it's a practice. And this is what I think the Catholicism can help me, is that develop what we were talking about earlier with Ron and Henry, is I'm very weak on the personal Jesus. It's the feels, the emotions, I don't know how else. I'm struggling for words here to put it in a way that communicates.
I don't know. Feels is probably not the best thing. It's not good to live in that either.
Yeah. What it's, well, like I said, veneration.
Well, I guess the idea
was
is,
a word.
can you get to the point where you understand that, Christ died for all, and then Christ died for you, like both and that Christianity is a communal, collective kind of thing, right? It gathers all the body together, but also it's about the one too. Like it both exists. Correct me if I'm wrong in saying that, Paul, but
no, I think you need. So if we're following Christ, what did Christ do a lot of? Going into the desert and praying.
Yep.
He did the communal stuff too, but he did a lot of going to the desert and praying. And they were sort of side by side. He'd be preaching, and then he would remove himself. And I think if we're following Christ, part of that is going to the desert and praying, like not the literal desert, although we can both do that, Mark, since we have local deserts. But I think there is a key within the gospel is this mode of prayer. And I don't think formal prayer, I think like formal prayer can be part of that. So, and there's a lot, like, how do you pray? There's many recommendations I could make, but I guess one of the things is, if you're spending a lot of time like studying the catechism, I think maybe one can do it in a prayerful mode. But I also like, if you're spending an hour doing that, maybe 20 minutes of it, like, do evening prayer from the breviary and just try to pray the Psalms and like they're intended to be prayed either in community or individually, and do the and spend some time like in reflection on the Psalms, and that's sort of then taking those desert moments alongside and then, is it hard? I Yes, but because it's fruitful, it's not hard after a while. I mean, I think there's yeah, and it builds on your Buddhist sort of background. I think that meditation and bringing that back in and centering it is important.
Yeah. Well, see, here's the when pseudo Risto knows me well at this point. Saying things like that make my brain explode. Praying the Psalms is the bomb. not for any of the reasons that anybody would think of why it would make my head explode, but I have it's part of the Protestant intellectual Westernism that's I'm just indoctrinated into. I have a very hard time reading we'll call the Old Testament in a way that is completely devotion, in a completely devotional way. I see I have a devotional aspect to my reading of it. I'm going through Genesis again. I decided I needed to go back into the Torah, so I starting back with Genesis, of course. And for me, it's a cult. It's a sacred book, but it's also a cultural artifact, and I struggle to. I always want to engage with it in that way. My devotional entrance is always through Jesus. I can't get to it any other way, but I'm always I can't stop myself. So praying and saying it's the bomb. One, it's a real weird phrasing, but it was also be like, I don't know if I can get there from here. Do you see what I'm saying?
So Mark, I think I think Jesus prayed the Psalms.
He prays some of the Psalms, right? I mean, we don't know what he, we to say he prayed all the Psalms, I don't know, but we know he did. Yeah, clearly, I agree. No problem with that.
I mean, I would say the mindset is sitting with Christ. Like this is like an imaginary. This is the imaginal here, but placing yourself next to Christ, who is reading the psalm, who's praying the Psalms to his Father.
Oh, I wanted Henry was leaving. I wanted him to say his last words.
Oh shoot! Well,
he's dropping out. No, I just saw the private message. Well, William, if you want to come back and we'll give you the stage for as long as you want to say your last words, if you had last words. If not, thank you for joining us.
I feel like maybe I don't know.
Oh, he's coming back. He has the last word. Let's hear it.
Right.
I didn't mean to hit the end leave studio button. I didn't mean to do that. I don't know. I guess as you're wrestling with Catholicism or not Catholicism, or whether you're a good enough Catholic to do this, or struggling with, what's the word, certainty in whether the actual word, right, the literal in the literary sense, or like the idea of just certainty in all these things. I don't know. Just remember Christ holds all things, and
Yes.
He's actually quite more gracious than I'd like to think he is, and it's kind of scary, and that goes for you too. That's all.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you hopping on. I missed you.
Fun.
It's been a while. I was just thinking about you not too long ago. So
I'm ready to jump back in again. We could,
Excellent. All right.
I'll see you guys around. It's nice to meet you, Paul.
Good to meet you, Henry. Hopefully it wasn't like too. Oh well. I'm very Catholic, so there we go.
I hang out with
No.
Catholics and Lutherans and Orthodox. Like I can vibe with it all, so we're good.
Yeah,
Okay.
Henry's easy going. I'm the hard one. I'm the difficult one around
Yeah,
here.
so vile.
See you later, Henry. Thank you.
Anyway,
Well, see,
yeah,
this
no,
is. I mean, it's part of the thing is I don't. When people talk about praying the Psalms or chanting or different practices, you probably weren't here earlier when I was talking about my own history with depression, mental illness, and whatnot, and that I'm I'm very reticent to do anything um, that will kindle in any kind of. I don't want to artificially get myself into a state because I've done some of that. I mean, I've done all. I mean, I told Henry at the very beginning of this thing. I said, I never did a lot of drugs because I never had to. I have a brain that is very easy. All I need to do is give myself the right set and setting, and I can trip because I just have a brain that is given to that. And so the coldness of the text, you know, there's some comfort there. It's so when you talk about on the other hand, I think devotion is what the Catholics probably have most to teach me, and that's where I have. So what you're talking about makes a lot of sense, and I am going to get the book. I'm going to get the. Is there's the app? I'll get the app or the. I see there are lots of books for sale too, but
the app's fine. I mean, the book is. I would say this is the one place where I'd say the app is better because it it's a bunch of interconnected prayers. So you actually have to learn how to read it because you're flipping around the book to find the right stuff. Because if there's if there's a saint for the day, it's going to have a particular prayer associated with that. And then if the readings change depending on the saint you choose, on the app it's easy. You just you have a few different options. You flip to the one you want, and then you read the prayers for that day. Um, but um, I the 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 devotional, it's like these things are designed for like a slow burn. Like the devotional, the slow, like not for these hot moments, but for something you are returning to cyclically, like daily, annually, um daily, weekly, annually, and so that it's sort of the slow burn rhythm of life, and it incorporates that, um and there are highs in the, like we're coming off of out of the triduum, and like that, the liturgy is intended to build up a spiritual high. I think that's fair. It's like you pull back from rejoicing and then you go full into, you bring back all of the most joyful elements of the liturgy in an extended service, and that has this sort of that emotional high in it. But that's once or twice a year where you have these peaks. Most of it is a stable reminders of basic of Christ's life and teaching, um and then just like stable habits of prayer. So I I think, yeah, I think there's too much hot and cold is not, it's not good. I think there's a lot of deep wisdom in sort of in that. Um, anyway,
yeah. Well, that's another thing too. very different. I mean, within you have specialists within the Protestant tradition, right? And so, if you want hot, you kind of know where to go. You know, and if you want the cold intellectual type, well, you got the John MacArthur types. You can go over there, right? And or some variation in between. If you want warm and fuzzy, we got that. But you never you want to all inclusive or affirming. You got a place to shop. And the thing that I find appealing about the Catholic Church, but also somewhat, it's also a little bewildering, is that it's all contained within it, and you'll, depending on where you look, you can find all of the elements within that one body, all the elements of Protestant expression contained within the one church, really, and then some, of course. So I'm trying to figure out how on earth do the charismatic Catholics fit in. I know they're there. I've seen them. I've heard about them. I've listened to some of them talk, and I'm going, now how do you work with so and so? And I mentioned the Exorcist Father Chad Ripperger, and I'm going, well, where does he fit into all this? And what do you guys think of this? And he'll say some really far out things. I'm wondering, what does the Catholic on the street think of that?
I think the charismatics and the exorcists get along quite nicely.
Well, that's the funny thing is, yeah, but what about the regular everyday, like I look at the people going to my church, the local Catholic church, and these folks are just as regular as day is long. I mean, they're having a great time, by the way. Most of them love going to church. They don't stick around long after. I mean, everybody come in, and then that parking lot empties out fast. It's just it's funny. But they love being there.
I find that there's a 75% clear out. Then there's about 25% that linger and talk. At least that's my experience. Yeah, a lot of people have very ordinary faith, and it's not very intellectually sophisticated. And I think there's a way the liturgy kind of smuggles in theology.
Mm-hmm.
This is a point I continue to make, but that's not just for the theologically sophisticated people who are going to say, oh my gosh, that was just a really powerful thing that was proclaimed, but also someone who may be half paying attention. They're getting some of that indirectly. And especially when it's repeated, especially important parts are repeated every week. Like we do a penitential right up front, and we're saying the same prayers right up front. And even if you aren't really fully paying attention, right at the beginning, you're talking about your own faults, and you're praying for each other. And I think there's these things that are kind of theologically important that are kind of snuck in, so ordinary Catholic can incorporate that. But yeah, and
well, 90% of them, you talk about percentages, I'm going to guess 80-90% of the people on any given Sunday know this stuff by heart. They've heard it so much they could recite it in their sleep, I'm guessing, because it's just at least they have enough visual cues to trigger their memory, because nobody's referring to a book. I mean, it's very rare you find somebody with a book open reading it. I mean, it's there, it's available in the pew. You can pull it out and look, but
I think that's, I mean, in my mind, that's a good sign.
Is it?
But
Yeah.
I think it's people are engaging in the liturgy, and it's sort of it's in their head. Now the question is, they're going to unpack. People are going to unpack that at different levels and at their own
Yeah.
pace, and depending on who
Well,
they are. But when you go to a funeral, though, it's going to be the exact same thing. You have the framework there, and there's something different being sort of incorporated, but you're going into the funeral with the same frame that you have at, or a baptism for that matter, as you would in like your every Sunday experience. And I think, yeah, I think there's a support structure, which is like for those stress points where you're talking about. All right, I should drop off, but anyway, I think that the frame
No,
is
you're fine.
important.
Yeah, let's. Yeah, I've been going. I probably should wind this up, but it's the. My guess is the utility of this sort of programming, for lack of a better word, formation, instruction, whatever, is that you when it's drilled in that deep, it's a kind of muscle memory. It'll come to you when you need it most, I suppose. I find certain passages of scripture are like that. Put me on the spot and ask me to recite a specific chapter and verse. I'll struggle if you just say, "Tell me what 3:12 is" or something. But in any given moment under duress, or when I find myself in a situation, it's like, oh, this verse pops into my head, or this is just like so and so back in the history of Israel or something, and I'll go, wow, that's really that's meaningful to me. So I'm guessing that's what all of this, how all of this works.
And like, anyway, I don't sit and memorize tons of verses, although I have a bank at this point. But like, I can do most of John, the beginning of John 1. And why is that? Well, it was incorporated with the prayers we did every Saturday as a family. And so I can just rattle off John 1. But anyway, and it's in that sort of, if you're praying it, then you have access to it. Anyway,
Yeah.
all right.
Well, I appreciate. Thank you for the input, and hopefully I wasn't offensive.
No, this is great. I mean, I think I'm happy about all this. So
cool.
I think a lot of people go through the same process in like intellectually, because I mean, I've done RCIA teaching and stuff like that, and I think and you're supposed to ask questions. That's sort of, you're supposed to struggle with these things and ask questions and wrestle a little bit to understand if what am I supposed to do? What am I called to do next? And I think doing it publicly is a service to other people who are doing this, and it's normal, and we can have the conversations without being offended.
Good. Yeah, I hope so.
Anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank
Thanks,
you,
Mark.
Paul. Appreciate it. I'll see you later. See you soon. Hopefully, another live stream. And I guess we'll wrap up the. Get rid of the big face. There we go. It's a little better. Yeah. I mean, it's the gospel. The gospel according to Mark is still. I mean, how I see it is if there is a God, if you can get yourself to think that there is a God, that God has, you have all of God's attention, by nature of God being God. You can't escape it. So, and if you can take that one more step and believe that God is love, is a loving God, well, you have 100% of that loving God's attention. And now what do you do with that? Well, there was a man named Jesus. And he was born, as the story says, of a virgin. And he said, and he grew up and he preached, and he said, you know, if you want to understand what God is, if you understand who the Father is, look at me. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father, he said. And so, you know, if you feel a lack of love in your life, I think you can look to him. And he came, he lived, died, overcame. And that to me is the gospel. The hard part is the church. What community? Where do I hang out with people who have a sense of the gospel? How do we do it? This is my challenge. The gospel is not too hard to understand. I think the hard part with the gospel is for us is to believe God really loves me in the way that he must. If God is God, God can't be divided, right? And be God. You can't have a part of God here and a part of God there, and that means there'd be some place in the universe where there is no God, right? Yeah, God is undivided. And if God is undivided, you have it. You got all of his attention. It's focused on you, your well-being. And if he's loving, your well-being, your fate is lovingly held in his hands, so to speak. And you can't shake it either, right? You can't, where am I going to go? The prophet said. Where am I going to hide from this God? You can't. There's no running away from this God. There's no running away from this much love. So, you know, I wish it were as easy as the old evangelists used to tell me when I was growing up. Just invite Jesus into your heart. Well, I know some people that actually worked for really well. But other people, it worked for a little bit and then didn't, or something. Who knows? Some people don't. It doesn't work so well. Some of us have to struggle. We have to wrestle. We may have invited Jesus in our heart, but we have to. There's more work to be done for various reasons. Yeah, the communities of faith are the hard part, and how to interact with, you know, how to do the Jesus stuff is not always easy too. But that's what the communities are for, because we need that help. We need pastoral guidance. We need the input from just friends. So that's what I suppose a live stream like this is about. There's no question, for me, there's no question God is. And as Paul the Apostle said, he is a rewarder of those who seek him. So God is, and he rewards us if we seek him. So if you're like me, keep at it. Good days, bad days. That's one good one. Good one to close out with, Risto. Thank you, William, for joining us. Secret Cave Woman Ugg, thank you for playing in the chat. Who else we got in the chat? Pep in my step. Did I highlight William already? Thank you, William. Green Manorite, welcome, thank you. I think I saw Mark S in the chat, dipping in and out. Brett, thank you. Let's see. Did I miss any? I thought I saw Almond Tree in there somewhere. So thank you, Almond Tree. Keep scrolling up. Need to thank Henry, of course, for all the time he spent with me today. And thank Ron. Anselman was here. Thank you, Anselman. Good to see you. So I'm sure I missed a few people here, and I apologize. But thank you all for joining me, and we will be around again sometime soon. Bye-bye.